It's a revolution, style revolution, cultural revolution.
When we come out here, we have a fight.
Evolution does not occur in one stage. It's an evolutionary process. Like people go through different things.
The real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for.
That you are here. And to be here means that you can't be here at once.
We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing.
It's a revolution, style revolution, cultural revolution.
Yo, what up?
Yo, what's up?
You tuned into the Peaceful Rage podcast
Featuring Matt Murphy and Dr. Wes Bellamy. Two brothers,
working in our community,
active, caring for our families.
still trying to get back,
We see what's going on with the big picture.
and we pissed off about it.
Peaceful Rage Podcast.
Peaceful Rage podcast. Yo, before we get the show started, we gotta apologize to our listeners. Yeah, we missed a week. You know what I'm saying? I've been hearing all about it. Man, I ain't had an episode last Monday.
know.
Yo, we be busy, man. Like,
My dude Quincy hit me up, man, and he was like, "Man, you ain't dropped nothing." I was like, "My bad, bro." He's like, "Man, I need that." I was
Right.
like, "I got you, bro."
yeah, shout out to my man Young, man. Shout out to Khalil, my brother. He listens faithfully every week as well, man. So shout out to them.
Word up.
And
Peace-
also our female listeners, man. We got a lot of female listeners
Man,
too.
and respect, man. Yeah, I was gonna say, just man, peace to everybody that's listening, man. We appreciate you, man, rocking with us, man. Tell a friend too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let folks know if there's even if it's just an episode that impacts you in some way, you know what I mean?
Right.
Let somebody know about the joint.
Right, no doubt. But yo, today, so we got a special topic that, I think both of us can relate to. Well, you maybe more so than me because mine ain't there yet.
Yeah.
But the topic of your kids and when is it appropriate for them to leave the nest? So Murph, dog, we could jump right in. I know you've raised, 17 kids.
Right. Feels like it sometimes, man.
So you've raised 3 boys
And a girl.
and your baby girl. Did you feel like they had to leave the crib at a certain age? Like, yo, you 18, you got to get out. Like, how did you handle that?
I didn't put a number on it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I felt like my general philosophy, even when the kids were young, was basically, I'm preparing you to go out to a world that doesn't love you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I love you, and I'm preparing you to go out into a place in a space that doesn't love you, and you have to make your way as
No
an
doubt.
adult making decisions. So that was my general approach.
No doubt.
Now, everyone's different, so all the kids matured differently and understood things differently, this, that, and the other. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was like, I think nature takes its course. We talked about this on previous episodes, you know what I'm saying? Like, boys feeling like they men,
Right.
and there's certain things that, like you're going to have as a man in your house and you're not going to have as a man in your house. So, it comes down to the same thing for me. And so when it's time for those boys to feel the way that they feel, it's like, all right, you want to go be a man in your own house, go do that. And that age can come in different spaces.
And it's a tough thing, man. Like, I think sometimes kids and young men, and this is a timely episode. I was just at a high school graduation earlier in the week with a lot of the younger guys where the school I used to work at, teach at, and it was their class they graduated. So like I've literally seen these kids from 9th grade, 12th grade. I mean, which I've been teaching for 8 years, so I've seen a few different classes. But these young men were a little different. You know what I mean? They were really like my sons. And one in particular, I've had as a mentee since he was in the 5th grade, literally. So he graduated, and I've seen him grow up. And he was saying to me, "Yeah, well, it's like I'm a man now. Like I can go with you." I'm like, "Yo, man, just because you're 18, that doesn't mean that you're an adult. You may be adult legally, but mentally, socially, where your mind is, you're not there yet." And I think we oftentimes run into issues, specifically as a community and even as a society for that matter, that we oftentimes put this label on people like, yeah, once you're 18, it's it. And I see that a lot within like the African American community and with black men. Like, yo, you 18 now. Like, you 18 now. You got to go do this. You got to do something.
Right.
And we pushing them out there sometimes too early. But I haven't had an 18-year-old in my house. So,
Well, no,
you know what I'm saying? So-
that's what's up. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it from kind of like a cultural perspective.
Yeah.
What is it about that age that the child says, okay, I'm ready to make this move? Because we know for the most part, they're often not ready to make that move, right?
At all.
They don't have a job that's going to allow them to sustain themselves. They don't have an education that's going to allow them to, like even let them think through and network in certain capacities that's going to allow them to move forward in like strong economic ways, right? So all those things are happening. But then also the parent saying, you got to go. You got to go because that's the magic number.
And I think that shows that I think when parents tell their kids that at young ages like that, that shows that there's an issue with the parent. Not saying that like they have like a mental issue or there's like some kind of, you know what I'm saying? But the fact that we can't quite recognize that, I'm trying. I always wonder like, what's the rush? And yeah, I want you to go out and experience life and whatnot. But there is something dope. I mean, when you're, there's something dope about you being able, just like in any profession, in life and as a whole, you being able to perfect your craft and learn more before you're just thrust out into prime time. Mm-hmm. Now, going off to college is something different, right? Mm-hmm. But even not all of our kids are quite mature enough and ready to go out to college. You know, go off to college and live on their own. Like some of them actually need to be at home and be in situations in which they're going to maybe community college or a trade school or working and still learning.
Okay, let's hit it from this angle then. Okay. Like, we understand that dynamic of young people, right? Yeah. And perhaps there's not a whole lot of young people necessarily that listen to the show. Right. That's fine. So let's talk about it from a parental standpoint.
But there are a few.
Okay, word up and big ups to y'all. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, like, in general, like, our conversation is probably not going to necessarily interest a 19-year-old. Right. And that's okay. Right. All right. So let's talk to the 19-year-old's mama. Right.
There you go.
And daddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the rush to get them out? Right. That's really the question. What's the rush? Uh-huh. For some people, it could be economic. For some people, it could be, you know what I'm saying, like relational. You know, dude's bucking up. He's wilding out. There's been problems. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have all that bullshit at the crib. You know, understand that because that's a real thing, too.
But that's even more reason. If he's bucking up and wilding out, why would we want to send them out into society?
Bruh, okay, let the police come to your house for your kids a number of times over the bullshit they doing in the streets. Let niggas come to your house, knocking on the door, want to run up on you looking for some money over what these niggas is doing in the streets. They're your kids, but they out here doing shit too. And they're coming to your house with your wife.
Nah, you right. I can't. And I haven't been there. And you're right.
Yeah, I love you, but you know what I'm saying? That at certain points, there are lines, and around those ages, some of those things can occur.
Right. I respect that.
So, but I'm saying, and let's say you got a good kid or a relatively good kid, whatever the case is, and the parents feel like at 18 you got to go. Yeah, and we know people have heard those stories. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
You going to college? Yes. Okay, good. You can stay. What would you have said if I wasn't going to college? Well, you got to go.
You got to get up out of here. You got to get up out of here. You got to go do something.
Right. I'm not saying that's all right. So to the parents of those children who make that decision to force that upon their child, right? Why? What's the value? You know what I mean? Was this like an emancipation day of sorts for you that you said, hey, there's some freedom for me, like from a legal perspective, like I'm no longer responsible. I don't have to pay for this shit no more. I don't have to do none of these things no more. Like, it's on you. And that may be the only way that they know how to compensate and or parent their child, by just saying, okay, I was responsible. Legally, I'm no longer responsible. Here you go. I did what I could.
One thing I've learned about parenting in that regard, right? Parenting is a lot easier when you have the financial means to be able to take care of your children.
That's what's up.
Right?
That's facts.
So when you have the ability, and sidebar, Murph just broke out the dopest water bottle I've ever seen in my life. This dude has a hyperbolic chamber.
Right. And the bottle, it's warm outside right now, and it's warm on the outside, but the water is cold. It's cold. Man. That is Icelandic, dog.
Yeah, anyway. But, but parenting, right? So when you are in a financial position to be able to provide your child or children for that matter with what they need and or what they want, parenting becomes a little more easier in terms of your tolerance. And not saying that you can just throw money at things or that, you know, your money makes everything better, but the struggle in which you're going through when you don't have resources or you don't have the, you know, finances is a lot different.
That's true.
From when you do.
That's a great
point. Which means that your patience can be a little higher.
Right.
Because you can say to kids that, well, you know, you're not quite ready. You can maybe go out and get a job, but you're not prepared to be able to take on all of the bills yet.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it for a poor family, right? What is it for them to have a child? You know what I mean? Reach that age and say, you know what? It's expensive, and I can't afford this. They're not gonna say that. They're not gonna say that. You know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna say that,
But indirectly, that's what they're saying.
for some people. So how much do finances play a role in those types of decisions as well? So you have like
Huge role.
Right. So you have like the natural factor, like this boy wants to be a man. You have the, you know what I'm saying, the whatever drama may or may not be occurring. You have the financial side of it. And like I was telling my girl the other day, I said, man, kids don't get less expensive as they get older.
They
right?
get more expensive.
Yeah, they get more expensive.
Shh, tell me about it.
You know what I mean? And so like it's that's just a fact. And so, you know, as they get older and their own needs.
Yeah, start to change.
So let me transition real quick. So then what do you do with the 19-year-old staying at your house, don't want to work? When he does work, tricks his money off on Jordans and dumb shit, right? Gets a girl pregnant, hangs with her for a minute, still ain't working. She leaves him because he a bum, right? Then he get with another girl, get her pregnant, stay with her mama and her mama and her brother and all that shit. Still don't want to have a job. Didn't get his GED. What do you do with him?
You describing baby boy or something, I feel like.
I'm talking about somebody. That's my homie's son, dog.
That's real. I mean, and what's unfortunate is that is such a realistic situation and a dynamic that we see, or scenario rather, that we see so often. And honestly, there is not a clear-cut solution for it, because if there was, then we would have already, I mean, we being society as a whole would have figured out ways to be able to remedy that.
So
that's
a young
where
man,
patience, that's where
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think that's where patience to a certain extent is important, but also being able to allow experience to be a teacher. So, I mean, I agree with you. That may be a situation in which you have to tell your child, like, I'm sorry, but you know, you gotta go, because you can't be here continuously doing that. I also believe that society as a whole has to play a role in terms of how do we, as a society, and even as parents or a community or so forth, create young men and young women, for that matter, that value themselves enough to want more for themselves. Right?
That's that good game they got to get, man. That's the, and this is what I was telling my dude, man, because he's going through this situation now. And I said, you know, this may not be the time that you wanted to do it, but this might be the time for you to do it when they're in their late teens, early 20s. You don't expect them to be back at the crib. You don't want to deal with the fact that they got multiple kids and they 20 with no job. But what's the rest of their life going to look like?
Yeah.
What are they going to look like at 27? So maybe it's just 2 more years of putting good game in their ears that's going to allow them to make decisions that they're not, you know what I'm saying, wrapped up in some bullshit with 3 kids, 3 babies, daddy, somewhere over in the trap, you know what I mean? And the cycle continues.
And it continues.
But I think there's a difference. I think the difference between putting them out too early and then living through a situation like that, and that kid might be 19 at that time, is that too early? Just because of the age?
That's too early.
It's too early, and he's done all these things.
But he's doing those things because he's a child.
So take care of his kids too.
I mean, yo, and I'm
just asking.
This is just my opinion.
Go ahead.
Like, yeah, I mean, you have to be able to make the best of the situation and work through the circumstance.
So
a 19-year-old is a child, even though they may have children.
Let's just say I'm making $36,000 a year. I got this little nigga that want to knock every female off that he see off in the club, and I got his 2 little sisters. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm trying to take care of them. $36,000 a year working at nursing home somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Late shift, paying daycare, doing all that shit. Now I'm going to take care of his kids too? That's what a single mom's supposed to say.
So how do we?
I'm just saying, is a single mom supposed to do that?
No, I'm not saying. And it's a really fucked up situation, no matter which way you put it. And there's no clear cut answer.
Right.
But for me, I would just ask for patience in that situation, because understanding that decision making from that 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21, 22, 23-year-old, their frontal lobes, like science will tell you that the human brain in the frontal lobes, especially for males, they don't even fully develop until you're like 28, 29, 30 years old.
And that's cool, but
So
you
their
know
decision making, and I mean, you're right, but because they've made decisions, very poor decisions, now there's consequences that bear weight on the entire family.
Right.
So you're asking, like, how do you deal with that? And man, for me, as if it was a single mom or even if it was a 2-parent household,
right.
As you just alluded to, maybe you need to take some more time and try to provide more game. Because now, especially if they have a child, there's a grandbaby, your grandbaby's involved. Like, you got to make sure that that grandchild doesn't turn out like the child.
Yes.
Or do you give up so early because they're 21 with 3 kids and they fucked up?
I don't know if it's giving up. It's can you?
No.
So I'm just saying, like, not can you give up, but can you actually do it? Can I go from 3 to 4 or 3 to 5 over the course of 2 or 3 years, making X amount of money in this space without killing myself physically, emotionally,
mentally,
and my other children that were already here off of decisions that I made are suffering because I'm now taking care of what he decided to do.
So what would you advise him to do?
I mean, listen.
This nigga.
Listen,
go ahead.
What
would you say?
What I would say, at a certain point, look, the ear laughing, right? At a certain point, there has to be a line. Yo, what's up? You listen to the Peaceful Rage podcast featuring me, Matt Murphy, and Dr. Wes Bellamy.
So what does that line look like?
Listen to me. You talked about the frontal lobe and the science and all that shit, and I'm glad that was all discovered recently. But for the course of most of human history, young men have gone out and established families, households, and businesses at much younger ages than 17 and 19. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They've gone out, 16, 17, 18, whatever, gone out and done these things. So that's around the world for the course of human history. So yes, we're still developing, we're still learning, but at the same time, like, I think there's a certain degree of coddling and there's a certain degree of codependency that we create and allow for, over the guilt that we feel about shit that we can or cannot be in control of. And it's like people dying and they 45 years old because they stressed out, got 9 ulcers and cancer. You know what I'm saying?
So how do you determine whether or not you're going to break the codependency? Because let me ask you this question before you answer that, right? I'm going to couple my question with the scenario or example.
My man.
One of my students, right? Well, I love my students. I'm not even going to... Some of my students, rather. I have a few of them. But I think about one in particular who's 16 years old, 2 children, had his first child at 14, had a second child at 15. His mom has been on drugs for most of his life. She has some mental issues as well, right? He has like maybe a 5th or 6th grade education. So how is he going to be able to take care of those kids? That's one scenario, right? So then I know that's different from the parent part.
Right.
But if we're talking about like a young man and or woman who's a parent, or if they're in a situation in which they have made a decision. I think of another student. 16 years old, the young lady who he was dating, if that's what we're calling it, they call them FLs, my first love. This is my first love, Dr. West.
First love.
Yeah, I never heard that one, but it shows
love.
I'm getting old, right? This is his FL, his first love. The mother of the young lady decided to move to North Carolina, so they left the daughter with her boyfriend and their family, sleeping in the same room. So, as you can imagine, a child is conceived.
Another one comes.
Right. So, do you tell that young man who's 16, who's been kicked out of 2 different public schools, who is, for the most part, in my opinion, a good kid, but now has a child on the way, do you tell him that he needs to leave the house?
No, I wouldn't say he needs to leave the house.
What do you tell him?
I mean, in that particular situation, of course, there's a lot of other details that are involved with that, but I would certainly begin to think about what are some options that he should pursue. So again, like I told my homeboy, this might be a couple of years that is not particularly fun for you. This might be a couple of years where you got to do some things you don't want to do for your child. So I wouldn't say put him out,
right?
But I would say it's not going to be easy.
How do you teach them that lesson?
Well, he gonna have to get a whole lot of shit together. She gonna be on birth control. This little nigga gonna work and get a job. You know what I'm saying? And we gonna talk about what other college and or trade he can pursue. You know what I'm saying?
How can you force someone to get on birth control?
Huh?
How can you force?
These are I'm not talking about force. I'm saying these are parameters of the conditions. Like, hey, look, you want to stay here? Oh, okay, Wes, get you another grandbaby then.
No, I'm just saying though. But how do you force?
I'm not talking about forcing. I'm saying you are 16, 17.
Yeah.
You have 2 kids. What, do you want another one? I will take you there and I will pay for that shit. Come on, man. Come on, dog. We be on the political correct shit. Like, for real, though. Like,
we being
like
100.
You 17, I'm being 100. You 17, you living in my house. You ain't my kid, but you got 2 kids that I'm taking care of. Come on, mama. We're going to take care of this shit or not. But then if that's the case, after this, I can't do no more for you.
And if they say no,
I can't do no more for you then.
That means you have to leave.
You grown up to make that decision.
So you have to leave.
Live with that.
You have to leave. Is what you're saying.
I'm not saying you have to leave. I'm saying you have to.
Yeah, if you make the decision that you're not willing to adhere to the rules or the guidelines that I'm requesting, then you're gonna leave.
At some point, maybe when baby 3 comes, maybe a month after, maybe 2. I don't know, but I'm saying that's the complexities of life. But I'm saying in general, come on, dog, you ain't even gonna have that shit, man.
I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying though, like,
So,
we gonna put the kid out,
bro.
Yeah.
Listen, this is what I'm telling you.
That's what I want. No, I want to hear you say though, like, yeah, you would have to leave.
At some point, they're going to have to leave. When that is, I could not particularly say. I would say this. If it was my son who did those things,
right, our
conversation would consist of, what are you going to do? Because there will be movements that are made. And it's not going to be working at Hardee's.
I respect that.
Okay, you're gonna go get a trade. You can be a carpenter, make $75,000 a year. You can be a welder, making bank. You know what I'm saying? You can, if you don't want to go to college, you want to go to college and do the shit and get in debt and do it all. That's fine. But let's talk about that. But understand, you got a hard road ahead. Was it easy for you when you was in school?
No.
Did you have a child?
Yeah.
Okay. But you did that. And it's the same thing for my son. I would tell him that same thing. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to bust your ass. And if you don't, you ain't going to get it. And if you do, you will. And it's not on me for you to do that, because I can't work for you. Did your daddy study for you? Did your mama do your test for you? No, she didn't. Come on, dog.
What I'm saying to you is, bro. What I'm saying, Deacon, is that you are absolutely correct. I'm not saying that one thing that you said is wrong, but what I am saying is that when the rubber meets the road, or however the fuck that saying goes,
right,
and that child decides not to do X, Y, and Z, will the parent be disciplined enough to say, well, you did not meet my requirements. You did not do what we agreed upon. Therefore, you have to leave. Or therefore, you have to get up out of here. That's where I think the hard part comes in.
But that sometimes is the case, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take kids out of it for a second, because that does complicate things. Grandbabies we love. You know what I mean? It's difficult. You're not going to leave somebody out there just stranded. You know what I'm saying? So people listening be like, "Oh, Murph, an asshole." Okay, whatever. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, let's take that out of it for a second. How old's too old?
So I think that's a cultural thing.
Is it cultural?
So here's why.
I think it's familial. I think it's relational.
It's familiar, relational. I think you're right. Excuse me. So I misspoke in terms of a cultural piece, because I've seen young ladies, young men, even for that matter, stay with their parents, like go to college, come back home, stay with their parents. And I've seen it more with young women than I have with young men, because young men like, yo, I gotta have my own space.
And I would talk, it's different for girls than for boys.
Right. But I've seen young ladies stay at home until they're 28, 29, 30. Or Murph's spacious now. Y'all wish I could have seen this.
Go ahead.
But I've seen them stay at home until they're older, right? Until they find their mate or their husband or whomever, or maybe even the wife for that matter, right? And stack their bread.
That's dope, though.
And then when they go into their union or decide to leave, they have a really good nest that they got a nice reserve. They got 10, 15 bands saved,
right? Because
they haven't been out paying rent. They haven't been paying utility bills. They haven't been paying, like a crazy car note. And they've been working and stacking. And that's why I say, to the point, sorry to cut you off, but that's why I say the point in regards to parenting becomes easier when you're financially stable, because if you can allow your child to stay, you may not be able to give them their first down payment on their house.
Right.
But if you allow them to live rent free while they're working and they can stack, they can have their own first down payment and still be straight.
That's right.
And then they're building equity and they're being financially in positions that you weren't in. Yo, what up? You tune into the Peaceful Rage podcast featuring me, Dr. Wes Bellamy, and my man Matt Murphy.
Vintage.
Money changes things, brother.
The dynamic as a whole.
But you know, I think I would also just kind of piggyback on what you said. You know, I know I made a face just now. You talked about them like staying at home.
She 30.
But for real though,
Yeah.
traditionally,
Yeah.
if you look at global traditions,
Right.
girls don't leave until they get married off.
Right.
Now you might say that's
That's sexist or
right,
some other
all
shit.
those things.
But that's really some American shit.
Right. So
Yeah.
so around the world in many cultures, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Some Western
the daughters
civilization.
are
Yeah, they
married
stay.
off, you know,
Right.
that's when they leave the house, whatever age that is. And if they get to a particular age, like, oh, she's old, she hasn't got married yet, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
almost like a cultural scorn.
Right.
And so while that's very traditional in many senses, it's not the norm necessarily in America today.
Right.
To see that happen.
I tell my daughters all the time, and you know, I may catch some flack for this, but I tell my daughters all the time, you don't ever have to leave. You will always have a place to stay as long as your father is alive.
Right.
And this goes for Layla, London, and Michaela. You know, and obviously 2 aren't my biological daughters, but they're my daughters.
Right.
And I tell them all the time, you always have a place to stay here. You never have to worry about staying with some young man or ever feeling as if you have to leave. Now we may have some conditions in terms of why you have to stay, but you always have a place to stay.
And see, that's the thing, brother. I think that's the difference. I'm gonna keep it funky with you, man. I think that's the difference between daughters and sons.
Because you think if I had sons, I would be like, yo, I just gotta go.
Do you feel like you've raised a man? If you tell him, oh yeah, you can always stay here.
So is your manhood defined by whether or not by your address?
No, not at all.
Your manhood defined by whether or not you stay at the crib? Like to me,
At
I think
your
that's
mama's crib, but go ahead. No.
So our society has placed this whole thing on where it's like, yeah, it makes you less of a man if you're staying at your mom's crib.
If
you
you're
are.
35 and staying at your mama's crib,
Does that make you less of a man?
does it make you less of a man?
Yeah.
I mean, situations happen. Let me say that.
Nah, don't give me no political correct bullshit like you said to me a few minutes ago.
No, but I'm saying situations do happen. No, I'm keeping it a buck.
All right, so yeah,
nigga, if you
situations
never
happen.
left your mama's house and you 35, yeah, there's a problem, dog. For real. I'm keeping it all the way 100 with you. There's a problem, dog. You never left your mama's house and you 35, nigga. Talk.
Bruh.
Come on, man.
I'm not saying I disagree with you. Like, you coming at, bro. I didn't say I disagree with you in anything you said. All I said was, bruh.
He gave me that look.
But I do think that.
but go ahead.
Nah. I think I just feel like the older I get. So yo, if I could do it over again. So one, my mom told me I had to leave my crib leave our house in Atlanta when I was 16, 17, something like that. Like, you gotta go stay with your daddy. Like, then you wildin'. You gotta move to South Carolina. So there were issues. We talked about it in previous episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the stepfather episode where, you know, my step pops was just like, yo, there's gonna be one alpha male in this house, and it's gonna be me. So yeah, I had to go.
One silverback.
There's one silverback. There's one lion in here.
That's right.
And you may lift your little weights, and you may be, you know, this outstanding football player, yada yada yada. But there's gonna be one alpha here. I respect that as I've gotten older. Now, if I had to do it over again, I remember, bro, when I went off to college after my freshman year, I was like, I gotta get an apartment. But why the hell did I want an apartment so bad when, damn, if that's money coming out of my pocket, when, in all honesty, I could have just stayed on campus and wouldn't have had to pay rent, wouldn't have had to pay light bills. So I had an apartment my sophomore year, junior year, my senior year. And then I moved to Charlottesville right when I graduated. So I've literally been living on my own, bro, since like 19 or some shit.
Well, bruh, because there's a certain drive that's within you.
But how much money would I have saved?
Sure, you would have saved money, but how many lessons did you learn in that time?
Could
that
I have
cat
learned
staying with their mama is not gonna get.
Could I have learned those lessons being at home?
No. You pay for them lessons, dog. You pay for them. I don't care if you paid emotionally. I don't care if you pay financially. You pay for them lessons, and you got that game early on when cats stayed with their mama and did not get it. That's what it is. And you in a different place than some of them people that made different decisions.
I think you're right. And I think some of my lessons could have been unnecessary. Like some of the L's that I've had to take were L's that I probably wouldn't have had to take.
Yes.
If I was in a different situation. Also, I mean, just me being a buck, like I had to leave the crib.
Right.
Right.
So that's another thing. It's just like trying to live.
Yeah. Like they couldn't. I mean, dog. I remember like it got to the point the end of my senior year in college. Like really, I'm not saying like I had my own apartment in college at school, but at home, like I didn't really have nowhere to stay. You know what I'm saying? I'm staying at my aunt's crib. I'm staying at my cousin's crib.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I go home, I'm staying at my mom's crib. When I go back to Atlanta, I'm staying at my mom's crib. But you know, really, you bouncing. My residence was at school, and you know what I'm saying, where my apartment was. But after that lease was up, like I knew I had to leave.
Right.
But if I didn't have to leave, and what if I could have went and got a job in Atlanta or South Carolina and stayed at home and banked my first year's salary?
That'd have been beautiful. Again, finances changed the whole entire game.
But
man.
nobody could take care of my grown ass. Like when I was a senior in college, niggas was like, "Yo, when you gonna finish school, bro? Because we can't keep giving you money."
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So that's also part of it. When you have that financial cushion,
right?
You have the luxury of being able to delay your moves and delay your decision making. Right. When you are in a place where your parents cannot financially care for you, even as much as they want to, and they love you with all their heart, then you got to go do shit. If we as parents have not prepared our kids to go deal with that reality, look, baby, I done worked at, you know what I'm saying, this restaurant for 22 years, and you know, it ain't really done the shit that I wanted to do.
Right.
You got to go make it. Right. I love you, and I wish you could. I wish I could. I mean, come on.
That's real.
You know.
I will
and I'm not saying that was the whole situation with you, but I'm just saying like that's part of the experience that we have as people that grew up in lower middle class. You know what I'm saying? Upper lower class kind of situations. Like we don't have those luxuries, and so often we're forced to grow up younger, if you would.
No doubt, bro. I see the whole parenting shit different. Like. How I raised my daughters and my children compared to how I was raised, and like even some of my peers, bro. And I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination. My wife and I are not rich, but because we have, you know, a little bit of financial flexibility, the decisions and the way in which we parent is so different than what I've experienced before.
That's 100, dog.
Because we have
a little extra to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Word up.
So if my daughter, any of them say that they want to do,
they can experience dope shit.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful.
Yeah, but we know that's not a reality for everybody.
That's what I'm saying. So sometimes those decisions that we get to make because we have a little bit more flexibility, you know what I mean, can skew the way we might think about things. So we keep in mind that there are people that can make decisions because they have an abundance, and there are those that have to make decisions because they don't have that. You know, like I just took my daughter up to DC. You know what I'm saying?
I saw your Facebook. Yeah.
So she go to France. Look, she's like, Daddy,
France.
Like she said, next week I'm going to Barcelona. Then I'm going to Amsterdam. Then I'm going to Paris. Then I'll be back. I said, word up.
Yo,
I said, girl,
it's lit.
You do your thing. You know what I'm saying?
It's
And for real, like I'm like, I'm like, damn, this is the first international trip she gonna buy herself. She gonna meet the people over there. Like, I'm like, you know, I'm bugging, but I'm also like, go ahead.
It's
you know
dope.
what I mean? Like, go ahead. So
we can touch on this maybe for another episode.
All right.
But it's also really dope that you're not a hater.
Oh, man, come on, dog. I love seeing people do good.
As a parent.
Oh no! Oh,
because there's a lot of situations where we've seen parents be haters,
bruh.
That shit is real,
man. Yeah, we gonna get into that to another episode, man.
Yo,
All right.
Appreciate y'all kicking it with us.
Much love.
We'll be back. Shout out to The Ear. Shout out to LifeView Marketing. Shout out to all of our sponsors. Yo, again, man, hit us up on iTunes. Hit us up on Podbean. I think we're going to be on SoundCloud soon.
Word.
Shout out to The Ear. The Ear is like, yo, y'all got to do a little bit more to get on SoundCloud, but we're going to make sure we make that work. And be sure to, man, stay in contact with us. Email us, peacefulragepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, @peacefulragepodcast. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. Peace and love.
Peace.
So, yo, as always, man, we want to thank the listeners. Appreciate y'all rocking with us.
Absolutely, man.
Shout out to our sponsors.
LifeView Marketing, Ty Cooper.
Shout out to our producer, The Ear.
The Ear.
Yo, what up, man? At Damani for prayers, hit him up. And also, if you want to be able to sponsor with us, or you want to come through on the show, look out for us. Hit us up on Gmail @peacefulragepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on social media @peacefulragepodcast on all social media websites. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.